All right, what's up, YouTube? It is the Dual Threat Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Drew.
And I'm the other co-host, Jake.
Thank you all for tuning in. Please make sure to hit that sub and like button and comment your opinions if they differ from ours as well. We're going to get straight into the video today, talking about this upcoming weekend of college football. And number one, we're going to talk about Trevor Lawrence. You want to touch up about that?
Yeah, so Trevor Lawrence posted on his Twitter earlier today, and he has been quoted saying, "I've tested positive for COVID-19. My symptoms have been relatively mild while I'm following the protocol for both Clemson and the ACC. The only thing that hurts is missing an opportunity to be with my teammates this weekend and play the game that I love. I hate that I can't be there, but I'll be watching from isolation and pulling for our guys while I wait for the opportunity to rejoin the team. God bless, go Tigers." What do you think about that, Drew?
Well, you know what? I really love his positive attitude. I mean, anybody, especially one of the greatest quarterbacks in the nation right now, could be complaining about not being able to play this weekend and his team gets to still. But I think it's great that he has a positive attitude towards it. I think that I'm really hoping that he gets better before the Notre Dame game that's coming up in a few weeks, which is questionable whether he can play then or not. I think that's a big game for the ACC. That's going to really decide who is a lock for the ACC championship that year.
Absolutely.
Or this year. Well, that really is the only news today for college football because, as you know, we upload daily. So there's not going to be a lot of news each and every day, but we're going to touch up on a few games coming up this weekend. And Jake, you want to start us off for the first game?
So first up, tomorrow night at 6:30, we have the Minnesota and Maryland game. We've got a 19.5 point spread towards Minnesota, Drew. What do you think about that?
Well, you know what? I think it's pretty easy to see who we're going to pick for this game. I think Minnesota is a very good football team. As badly as they got beat by Michigan, I think Michigan just showed up ready to play. I think a lot of teams this year haven't been ready to play coming first week because of due to COVID and other complications. But I think Minnesota is still a good football team. I think we're going to see that this weekend. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Maryland looked horrible last week.
Of course.
Minnesota didn't look great, but they were playing a Michigan team that was prepared. Jim Harbaugh had that team just gunning for that win against Minnesota at Minnesota. They wanted that little brown jug.
Yep.
And I mean, Michigan came ready to play. It's not that Minnesota didn't. It's just that Minnesota was not as prepared as Michigan. So I do think that Minnesota is going.
All right. Well, next game, we're going to go straight to Halloween on Saturday. We're looking at an 11 a.m. game. Coastal Carolina, number 20 ranked team in the nation, versus Georgia State. What do you think about that game?
I mean, it's kind of hard to bet against the Chanticleers right now, man, with that turquoise field. Although they will not be playing on the turquoise field this weekend. It's going to be at Georgia State. But, yeah, I do not see Coastal Carolina lose.
I do not either. I will go with your pick. They're a 3-point favorite right now. I think we're going to stay on that side of the line. And then we're going to move straight into our next game. You want to start talking about that one?
Yeah, so we have a big matchup between Georgia and Kentucky. Kentucky laid an egg last week against Missouri. They went down 20-10 at Missouri. That did not look good for Kentucky. What do you think?
I think not only did Kentucky look pretty bad last week, I think Georgia is a red hot team right now, even coming off their loss against Alabama. I mean, there's everybody in the nation except for top three teams are going to lose badly to Alabama. I don't think you can really punish them for that. I don't think you can judge them for that. I think they're still the best defense in college football, or at least one of. And as good as Kentucky's defense is or has been in the past, I don't think they're going to be able to handle Georgia. Yeah. So I'm taking Georgia to win this game.
I think it is absolutely fair. Next up, Drew, we've got Iowa State and Kansas. Kansas coming off of a loss of 55-14 to Kansas State. And Iowa State also coming off of a loss, but much more respectable at 24-21 to Oklahoma State. Drew, what do you think?
Well, right. Well, you know, Iowa State played a very good Oklahoma State team. They look legit this year. We're going to talk about their matchup later tonight. But, you know, Iowa State is actually a pretty good football team. Kansas, I mean, you don't even want to talk about the other side of the football there. They've been struggling. I kind of expect them to have an upset sometime this season, as they always do. But
it's a basketball school.
Yep, it is a basketball school. As much as As much as I would love for them to win this game,
Hey,
I don't think that's going to happen.
Les Miles is trying to turn the tide there, though.
Yes, they're trying, but haven't really been succeeding so far.
Yeah, it's absolutely fair to take Iowa State.
All right, next game, another 11 a.m. kickoff. We've got Cincinnati, the number 7 team ranked in the nation, ranked team in the nation. They just beat SMU last weekend by a lot. They're playing Memphis. They're a 7-point favorite. What do you got to say about that?
You know, watching that Cincinnati SMU game at SMU, I really thought SMU was gonna at least put up a better fight than they did. I mean,
did too.
It was just a whopping defeat for SMU. I mean, the final score was 42-13. Cincinnati looked really good. I was not expecting Cincinnati to put up that many points against that SMU team. I thought Shane Buechele was going to play better for SMU. I'm not sure if it was SMU being underprepared or if it was Cincinnati just playing to their full potential. But
Right.
I think it is absolutely fair to take Cincinnati. Memphis's only win here was really against the F team, who face of the earth this year. So I would definitely side with Cincinnati.
Yeah, I would personally love to see Cincinnati fall. I as good as a team they are, I don't think they should be in the top 10. I don't think they should be jumping A&M. And if you haven't checked out that video, we talked about that a little bit. Go check that out. I don't think they should have jumped A&M. I think Cincinnati will win this game, but I'm praying for an upset there.
Yeah, and I mean, Cincinnati's remaining schedule, they've got Houston, East Carolina, UCF, Temple, Tulsa. Do you see them losing a game?
I don't know. I would love for them to lose a game, but they're the UCF of 2018 in this season, and it's looking like they're just going to beat the crap out of really bad teams throughout the year, and then towards the end of the year, they're going to make a case for the college football playoffs.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they're going to do about it because we're not on the committee. So
yeah. All right, so the next game that we have right here, it's Kansas State, number 16, against West Virginia. It's another 11 a.m. game. And currently, West Virginia is favored by 4. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, right now, I'm looking at it for the first time. I didn't realize they were favored by 4, but Kansas State is a good football team, but West Virginia is not a bad one. I think a lot of people have overlooked West Virginia a little bit. But I really think Kansas State wins that game. I'm not sure why West Virginia is favored in that one.
Yeah, I mean, I would absolutely take Kansas State plus the points. I mean, that just seems like easy money right there. But I mean, Kansas State's only loss this year was to Arkansas State, which was a Week 1 game, which
a lot of people have been struggling Week 1 this year.
Yes, as seen from Penn State, who we will talk about later.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I would absolutely take Kansas State in this game. It is at West Virginia, but I mean, I'm rolling with Kansas State.
I think I am as well. Next up, we've got Michigan State versus number 13 ranked Michigan. What do you got to say about that game?
Michigan State looked horrible against Rutgers. I mean, terrible.
Just completely laid an egg against them. I mean, 38-27 to a team that is historically pretty bad.
I mean, Rutgers doesn't even deserve to be in the Power 5, but that's another conversation. And Michigan State found a way to lose. So
they did.
Plus, we're talking about a Michigan team who just came out and stomped Minnesota at Minnesota. Jim Harbaugh is going to have them ready again. Michigan's going to be firing on all cylinders. The line's 24. I could see Michigan pushing this thing. I mean, I feel like they could end up winning.
I think I agree with you. I mean, this is a rivalry that is usually a pretty close game. I think this year Michigan definitely has the better team, and I think that's going to show this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. So the last 11 a.m. game that we are going to talk about tonight is the Purdue-Illinois game. And last week, Purdue had a nice win against Iowa, 24-20. I'm not really sure that was an upset, but I don't really expecting that outcome. And Illinois laid an absolute dud against Wisconsin last Friday. So what do you think about this?
Well, I think it shows a lot between Illinois' game last week. I mean, they're playing a true freshman quarterback who just absolutely destroyed them. And I'm not taking anything away from Wisconsin. I think they're a great football team. But, I mean, you upset them last year, and then you come into the game and just get absolutely just destroyed by a true freshman quarterback who tested positive for COVID, which we talked about yesterday. I really do think Purdue is going to win this game, and I don't think it's going to be a close one.
The line currently is 7 for Purdue. Feel free to take that and make your money. All right, so next we will be getting in to the 2:30 games. First, we have Indiana and Rutgers. Do you think that Rutgers has some more of that magic that they showed against Michigan State last week?
I don't think they do. I think that was really just week one craziness in football. I think Indiana beating Penn State was very impressive. That game is a very weird ending, as we talked about a lot over the weekend. One of the craziest games I've ever seen, definitely. Penn State with a 99.9% probability of winning the game with a minute left. And the running back running the ball in on accident.
On accident. He didn't mean to score the touchdown.
And Indiana getting the ball back, scoring, and then the onside kick at the beginning, and then the missed field goal. It was just a lot that just shows week one is just crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do think Indiana is actually a pretty good team, because I think Penn State is also a good team. Penn State just made a lot of mistakes in that game. If you look at it, they had 2 fumbles, 3 missed field goals, obviously running in on accident when they should have won the game.
Yep, all they had to do was sit down. They win the game.
And it's still a controversial ending. A lot of people think Penn State should have won that game if he didn't get in or not.
Hey, but that quarterback showed off some athleticism.
Yes, he did.
I don't care if he was in or not. I mean, that was an unbelievable play.
And I mean, if you think about it, the way that Penn State played that game, I really don't think they deserved to win that game. And so I'm glad Indiana did go out with the win, but I'm excited to see them this weekend against Rutgers, to see if Rutgers is actually legit or if Indiana is actually legit. And I think this is going to show a lot, and I think Indiana ends up winning this game.
I would agree with that. All right, the next game that we have, it's the first big SEC game of the weekend. We have LSU at Auburn. Currently, LSU is favored by 2.5. Drew, what do you think about this game?
Well, I've got a lot of my own opinions about Auburn. I don't think Bo Nix is really that great of a quarterback. I mean, we talked about this yesterday. I think he has a lot of hype around him because he won SEC Freshman of the Year, and he looked like he was going to be a great quarterback. I mean, he had a lot of slack last year, as we talked about, and I don't think that he can run an offense that he needs to get the wins. I don't think Auburn's defense is as great as it has been in the past either. And on the other side of the ball, I think LSU is starting to find something. I think they're starting to click with their new quarterback, TJ Finley. He looked great last weekend against South Carolina. I think LSU does end up winning this game, and I think it's going to be a close one. What do you think?
I had written off LSU, Miles Brennan. I mean, when they lost to Missouri, when they couldn't run the ball in on 1st and goal, 2nd and goal, 3rd and goal, or 4th and goal from the 1-yard line at Missouri, I feel like that was pretty telling of what this LSU was compared to last year. I had them written off, and then last week they put TJ Finley, and boy, did that work. I completely agree with everything that you said about Bo Nix and Auburn. I believe that they should be giving the ball more to Tank Bigsby.
I agree. I think he's a great running back.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they need to take some pressure off of that offensive line and just run the ball behind them instead of asking them to pass block all the time for Bo Nix, who just can't seem to hit the broadside of a barn right now.
Right.
If Auburn decides to run the ball and if Gus Malzahn takes up more of the play calling, I think that Auburn can win this game. But with that new revamped offense for LSU with TJ Finley at quarterback, I think LSU is going to win this game.
I agree. I think LSU is going to be a lot better of a team than they were week one as well. And yeah, I expect them to win this game against Auburn. And, a lot of people argue that Auburn should be, 1-3 now? And 1-4. It does not look good for Gus in my eyes.
It was a backwards spike.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, next game that we've got right here, we've got Notre Dame, Georgia Tech. Oh, Notre Dame. Drew, what do you think?
I talked about Notre Dame yesterday about how they did show up against Pitt. I tried to give them a lot of slack in their first week back after the whole COVID outbreak, and they had to take a break. They hadn't played football in a while. And then they played the next week against Louisville. They didn't do that great, but I kind of was lenient on them for that game as well. I mean, it's week 2 back, but they just absolutely destroyed Pitt last week.
They did.
And I think they looked a lot better. I don't think Ian Book is that great of a quarterback as a lot of people see. I think he just has really, really great and tall and fast wide receivers that he kind of just throws up to.
Yep.
And on the other side of the football, I'm not really sure about Georgia Tech. I'm not going to be surprised if Georgia Tech keeps it within 2 touchdowns, but I think Notre Dame does end up winning this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the key for Georgia Tech is they have to stay penalty free. I mean, they need to focus on the tight end. There's just not a lot that I feel like Tech is going to stop Notre Dame. Because as you said, they just have those huge wide receivers that Ian Book can just kind of toss the ball up to, and he knows that they're going to go make a play.
Yep.
I would love to see Georgia Tech win this game. I would love for
Absolutely.
people to actually see how good or bad this Notre Dame team is. Notre Dame does play Clemson next week, but Clemson might be without Trevor Lawrence now. We're not going to know until next week.
Yep.
So, I mean, I do have Notre Dame winning this game grudgingly. I really don't.
Neither do I, but it's looking like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Next game, we've got still a 2:30 kickoff. We've got TCU versus Baylor. TCU opens as a 2.5-point favorite. What do you think?
I personally think that this line is way. I think TCU can win the game by multiple touchdowns. Baylor looked horrible last week against Texas, who also looked horrible in the game, but Texas ended up winning.
All right.
TCU went to Austin and beat Texas earlier in the year. That was a decently big upset at the time. Turns out Texas sucks. Not really an upset anymore. But both teams went into Austin with a relatively unstable Texas team, and TCU came out on top. Baylor got handed to them. So I think TCU is going to win by multiple touchdowns. Drew, what do you think?
I agree. I think Baylor has taken a big step from last year. I mean, everybody saw what they had potential. I mean, they did very well last year starting off the season. I think they went, 10-1?
Something like that. Matt Rule leaving for the NFL just ruined Baylor.
Yes, it did. I mean, they lost to West Virginia in overtime. They lost to Texas last week. Didn't look very good against that game. I'm taking TCU in this game by 10, maybe 14.
Yeah. All right, next we have a 3 o'clock start between Ole Miss and Vanderbilt. I feel like we can get through this one relatively quickly. Vanderbilt's Vanderbilt. Ole Miss has a very high-powered offense.
Yes.
Do you see this Vanderbilt defense slowing them down at all?
So my thing about Ole Miss is they're kind of like Mississippi State in that they live or die by the pass game. And I don't think Vanderbilt's passing defense is good at all. And so I think that's really going to help Ole Miss out, especially off of this loss from Arkansas last week. And I really do think that they're going to come out and show out and end up winning by at least 3 touchdowns or more. I don't think Vanderbilt's defense is very good, as it showed in the 41-7 loss in the last 2 weeks against LSU and South Carolina. Yeah, I'm taking Ole Miss in this game pretty big.
Will Ole Miss have less than 7 turnovers like they did against Arkansas?
I would sure hope so, because if not, that would be pretty embarrassing.
That would be very embarrassing. They met that mark again. I will also take Ole Miss. Next, 3 o'clock game. Big 12 game right here. Texas at Oklahoma State. The line is currently 3.5 to Oklahoma State. Drew?
Well, as you'll get to know as you watch my videos, I'm not the biggest Texas fan, as Jake knows for sure. But the thing about Texas is they win games they shouldn't, and they lose games they shouldn't. And, Sam Ehlinger, like, as much as I don't like the guy, you got to give him props. He has been absolutely carrying this Texas football team. Their defense has just looked terrible, as it has been for a long time. That's always really been their problem. But, I really think that Tom Herman's going to kind of step up this week. And I honestly think Texas might pull off this upset. What do you think?
Tom Herman's definitely on the hot seat right now.
Absolutely.
I'm not even sure that he can save. I mean, if they were to run the table and win the Big 12 somehow, sure. But they still have Oklahoma State this weekend. They have Iowa State still. They have Kansas, which they've been known to lose to Kansas all of a sudden.
Very true.
And I don't see Texas running the table. Now, in this game, 3.5-point line, I want to take Oklahoma State because, as Drew said, he's not a Texas fan. I am a Texas fan, and I don't want to have hope. However, as Drew also alluded to earlier, Texas wins the games that they should not win. I definitely see Texas keeping this game close. Oklahoma State, I believe last year, maybe it was 2 years ago, upset Texas when Texas, and everyone had eyes on Texas possibly. And now Texas has the exact same opportunity to do that to Oklahoma State. It's definitely going to be a close game. I think I am going to side with Texas.
Well, I kind of expected you to, if I'm being honest. But, I just think whenever everything is stacked against Texas, I mean, we've got the coach on the hot seat. We've got the recent decommit from the number 1 prospect.
Quinn Ewers, yeah.
And you got a number 6 red-hot Oklahoma State team who just beat, I think it's currently ranked 23, Iowa State.
Yes.
And it's just all stacked against them. And you would think that Oklahoma State would run the table here, and I just don't see that happening. I think I'm taking Texas.
All right. The next game,
as much as it hurts me to say.
Next game we're going to get into is a 5 o'clock start out in the mountains. We got number 25 Boise State going up against Air Force. What do you think about this? It's currently a -14 point spread towards Boise State, who is currently 1-0 after winning their opening game last week.
Well, yeah, they just beat the living crap out of Utah State. I mean, 42-13 final score. We don't really have much to base this off of. I'm not really a Boise State watcher, if I'm going to completely admit it. But what I do know is that my computer is glitching out right now. Okay, hang on, sorry. What I do know that is they did not really pass the ball for a lot of yards in that game. I mean, Utah State only had 92 yards, but if you look on the other side, Boise State had almost 300 passing yards. I think their quarterback is pretty good. I'm not really sure about Air Force's defense. Haven't really watched them either, if I'm being completely honest. But with a 14-point spread, I guess I'm taking Boise State. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Air Force is currently 1-1 with a win against Navy, who did not look very good against BYU. BYU put it down on Navy. Air Force put it down on Navy.
Transitive property of equality.
Exactly. Air Force lost to San Jose State, which, by the way, Circle is.
I did not know that.
Yeah, San Jose State, home of former Texas A&M Aggie quarterback Nick Starkel. Anyway, yeah, San Jose State beat Air Force 17-6. I don't see Air Force really putting up much of a fight against Boise State. I feel like Boise State's another one of those teams that could end up running the table. They do have BYU on the schedule. That's going to be a big game. That is next Friday, actually. That'll be fun to watch. But aside from that, there's no one that's really going to.
Yeah. All right. So the next game we're going to talk about 6 o'clock kickoff. We've got Mississippi State versus number 2 Alabama. What do you think?
Bama does not have Jalen Waddle. That's number 1. That's it. Bama's going to smoke the heck out of Mississippi State. Mississippi State has 0 offense anymore after their incredible performance against LSU, where they just made LSU look like a high school team. And, who's the...
You're talking about...
Mike Leach.
Yep.
Mike Leach came out and said that he wanted to play NFL teams, and now...
well, everybody was claiming he was the Heisman after one game, and
yes,
obviously that is...
Including me. I did think that that the ex Stanford quarterback KJ Costello, he was gonna end up winning the Heisman, but then Mississippi State went on to lose to Arkansas and lose to Kentucky and then lose to our Aggies, and now Mississippi horrible.
Yes, losing those games while throwing, I believe it was 7 or 8 interceptions before throwing another touchdown on offense. And I mean, you look at
backup quarterback.
Yep,
Backup quarterback that threw the touchdown.
that is true. And then you look at Alabama. I mean, they are without Waddle. I mean, which is obviously a huge part of their offense. But
Yeah.
the thing with Alabama is their depth is just ridiculous. I mean,
the next one up.
yep,
I mean,
the next
it's
superstar is on their sideline, and you're just waiting for him to play. And they're a 31-point favorite. I think they cover this. I think Mississippi State's offense has been down in the just dirt right now. It hasn't been very good, and I think it'll continue to be that way as Alabama's defense continues to improve.
I do think Mechie needs to step up a little bit without Waddle in there. But I mean, Mechie every single. I mean, Mac Jones, truth man, great quarterback.
He is a great quarterback for sure.
Yeah. So all right, next game, 6:30. Our Texas A&M Aggies, ranked number 8 in the nation,
Yep.
are taking on Arkansas, not at AT&T Stadium in Dallas, but here at Kyle Field. What do you think of that?
Well, we talked a little bit about it yesterday. They come out as a 10-point favorite. I think a lot of people are on the Sam Pittman train right now. I think a lot of people expect Arkansas to come out just firing against Texas A&M's defense. They don't run the ball very much, so they're going to have to work on their pass game. Their defense looked phenomenal against Mississippi State, but then again, you could say Mississippi State is just struggling altogether. Or I'm sorry, Ole Miss. But
7 turnovers.
yeah. But you look at A&M and their run game. It's really good, and I'll try to be as unbiased as possible. I think Isaiah Spiller is a very good running back. I think their offensive line is really good. I think that they're going to run the ball in Arkansas, and I think they end up winning by more than 2 touchdowns. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the key in this game is to get the ground game going early, wear that defensive line out, and then that'll open up the play action pass. If Kellen Mond can play the way that he did against Florida, I mean, he looked like a husband to you in that Florida game?
I don't know. Well, I'll tell you what, they looked like a pretty good team. And if Kellen Mond, which consistency has always been his issue, as we've talked about through the years, if he can stay at that type of level, then the A&M might just be a contender this year.
Yeah, and I mean, A&M needs to not play down to their opponent.
Yes, very true.
In the past few years, A&M has played down to Arkansas's level, and it has been a very close game with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And if you let this Arkansas team in the game that long, I think Arkansas could pull off the upset. But I do believe that A&M will run away with this game by halftime.
All right, next up, we've got another 6:30 kickoff. We've got Missouri versus the Florida Gators. What do you think? They're a 13-point favorite. Haven't played in 2 or 3 weeks since their loss to A&M. What do you think about this game?
I think that Missouri's offense has been looking very good. I think that they have found their quarterback. I find his name. Yeah, the Missouri offense with Connor Bazelak back there at quarterback, that's who it is. They've been looking great. I feel like this game deserves to be on the watch list. However, I also believe that Florida's defense is finally going to show up for the first time. Florida has the guys to show up on defense. They just haven't produced in games. I think Florida will this weekend. I think the Florida offense is just mantled that Missouri. I will absolutely take Florida, and I will take them to cover, but I will also say that this might be a game you want to flip on because Missouri could hang around.
I'm going to agree with you on that because it's really hard to come after 3 weeks of not playing football and to show up like they have in the past. Florida's offense is very efficient. They get it done over there with Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts as well. And I love watching that offense. It's a lot of fun. It's sort of like the Alabama one. Any play can be a huge play. And I do think Florida runs away with this, but, it's really up to Florida's offense and the amount of mistakes they make. I think they can easily outscore Missouri's offense. But what I do think is that if they turn the ball over too much, that they'll definitely lose this game, or if they just make mistakes, and that is very possible after not playing for 3 weeks.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Another 6:30 game. We'll get through this one quick. Navy and SMU. Does Navy stand any chance against SMU and Shane Buechele?
I don't know. I've always been a big believer in Shane Buechele, if I'm being completely honest. I think he's a good quarterback. Last week it didn't look so good for SMU against Cincinnati, but maybe Cincinnati is just the real deal. But I don't think Navy really stands a chance, if I'm being honest. I think SMU wins this game.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, now we can get into the big game of the weekend. 6:30 start. College game day is going to be there. Ohio State at Penn State. The line is currently -12 for Ohio State. What do you think?
Well, to be completely honest, I don't really know who I'm picking in this game. My heart says Penn State is going to win, but I mean, if you look at the facts, I think Ohio State wins this game.
Yeah.
This is always a fun game to watch. Usually the whiteout, I believe, game would be this weekend. And that environment's always cool to watch. But, due to COVID, I don't think it's really going to be as big of an impact on the game.
It's racist now, but
well, anyways, I think Ohio State does end up winning this game. I think they pull away here. Ohio State just looks dominant, as they always do in early games. And Penn State's loss over in Indiana, it had a lot of mistakes. If they can, getting that straightened out, maybe they stand a chance. But I think Ohio State runs away with this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think Penn State has to figure out how to iron out all the mistakes, the turnovers, the lack of awareness when they ran into the end zone when all they had to do was take a knee and they were going to win that game. I see a path for Penn State to win this game. They're going to have to force a lot of turnovers. They're going to have to shut down Justin Fields. They cannot let him get outside the pocket because he will run all over them.
Yep.
Ohio State's run game did not look great last week. With Trey Sermon's
Well,
back
when it
there.
did look great, they ran in the end zone on accident.
That is true. No, Ohio State, not Penn State.
Oh, sorry.
But Trey Sermon's didn't look fabulous. I mean, I just don't see the Penn State defense stopping that Ohio State offense. I feel like Ohio State's going to hang at least 45 on them. I would definitely take Ohio State to cover in this.
Well, you look at Ohio State and the way they played Nebraska. I mean, it sort of kind of looked like an Alabama game where it was really close going into the halftime, and then they just pull away and score 28 straight on you, and then end up beating you by 4 or 5 scores. I think this game will be a pretty close one, maybe till halftime. I think Ohio State runs away with it in the second half.
I agree. All right, we've got a 7 o'clock game between Mac Brown and North Carolina going to Virginia. North Carolina is currently favored by 7. What are your thoughts?
Well, North Carolina really showed up last weekend after losing to Florida State in that big upset, which is exactly what they needed to bounce back, to get back into their groove as a team. We were talking about this earlier in the season. We don't think North Carolina should have been ranked that high. We think they are a good team, a top 15 team at least. I don't know about number 5, as they lose to Florida State as soon as they get that high. I don't think Virginia is a very good football team. I've had them ruin multiple parlays, so it's definitely biased.
Oh man,
over here. What do you think?
Virginia is currently 1-4. They beat Duke over a month ago. They lost to Clemson, kept it relatively close compared to other teams, but it still wasn't close. It was an 18-point game. Lost to NC State, lost to Wake Forest. They kept it close with Miami, but again lost. I definitely see Virginia keeping this game close. I would actually like to take Virginia on the line right here, +7. Give me the points. But I do think that North Carolina is going to find a way to win this game. I don't think that they're going to let that Florida State loss hang over into a third week. I know that they beat NC State last week, but I don't think that they would look back and let that Florida State loss come in and affect them in this.
Well, that's where I'm going to differ from you on this game. I think you take North Carolina's side, at least personally. I think North Carolina ends up winning this game pretty big.
All right. Next 7 o'clock game. got right here. It's going to be on Fox. It's Texas Tech. It's at Texas Tech. Spencer Rattler starting for Oklahoma, minus 14.5. Oklahoma is finally ranked again. They are number 24. What do you think?
Well, going back to when Oklahoma played Texas and Spencer Rattler got benched because he wasn't playing very well. I believe it was against Texas. Maybe it was against somebody else.
It was against Texas.
And then he comes back in the game, and he actually looks like the quarterback he was promised to be going into the season. I think Oklahoma's starting to find their groove as a team. A little too late, losing 2 games already this year. Not really a Big 12 contender this year, in my opinion. But I think Oklahoma does end up winning this game big. I don't think Texas Tech is really that good of a football team.
Yeah, I mean, I think Texas Tech has been really streaky. They beat Houston Baptist by 2. They should have beaten Texas and found a way to lose that game in overtime.
That's going back to Texas winning games that they shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. They lost to Kansas State by 10 at Kansas State. Turns out Kansas State might be pretty decent. Then they lose to Iowa State. Then they beat West Virginia. It's going to be in Lubbock. It's been snowing there this week. I don't know
really?
I don't know if that's going to affect anything. Yeah, I think Oklahoma's going to run away with this. I don't see Texas Tech really putting up much of a fight. Could be close in the third quarter, but I think Spencer Rattler has learned from his mistakes, and I think he's going to show up and show out against Texas Tech.
I mean, I think I agree with you here. I think Spencer Rattler's really starting to get in his groove. He kind of has a moxie to him. He plays with a lot of confidence, and I think you can see that when he's out on the field. He tries to make Heisman level plays all the time, and I think that's why he got benched. I think his coach was, Lincoln Riley was like, dude, you need to calm down.
He's trying to be Baker Mayfield out there.
Yes, and I think that did help him a lot. I think he's starting to become a better quarterback, and I'm actually excited to watch him throughout the years for sure.
Yeah, completely. All right, last game. Quick game. Western Kentucky, BYU. I don't know much about either of these teams, but BYU is now ranked number 11.
Well, BYU is undefeated, and Western Kentucky is not. Losing to Florida Atlantic. That was last year. Losing to Liberty, Marshall, and Louisville.
Thanks.
It's been a rough season. Oh, UAB as well. And
they don't even have one win.
They do have a win. They beat Chattanooga.
Chattanooga?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, Western Kentucky's bad. BYU.
Apparently he's good. Haven't watched him much.
They beat Navy. They beat Troy. They beat Louisiana Tech. And they beat UTSA by 7. They beat Texas State pretty handily. They beat Houston.
That UTSA game, that's what really gets me kind of scared about that team is it seems, I mean, if you take away that game, they look like another Cincinnati beating the crap out of bad teams. But I mean, you look at that game, only winning by 7 points against a pretty bad UTSA game.
San Antonio. Yeah, not the University of Texas, the University of Texas at San Antonio.
Right.
I mean, I feel like everyone's just going to be looking forward to that BYU Boise State game next Friday. That's really going to determine the rest of the season, both of these teams, because whoever wins that game likely going to be undefeated.
Correct.
So,
well, that is all the picks we have for you today. That is pretty much all of the big games coming up this weekend that we were interested in. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. Comment your thoughts about our opinions. And if you're on Twitter, please go follow us at Dual Threat. We're just going to be live tweeting about games every now and then, or tweeting when our newest video is out. And we just want to thank you all for watching, and have a good one.
all right.